my daughter, Kayla, was born with scoliosis and hip impingement syndrome. They've had to pull her joints out of the socket to shave them, and her spine is in a metal cage. And if my daughter was to get pregnant, she would probably die. And this administration would let her die before giving her the ability to make a decision about her own body. And that right there, plus many other things, is the reason why I decided to get into this fight.
All right, I have great news for you guys. Ojeda's back. Richard Ojeda running in North Carolina 9. How you doing, brother?
Can't complain, man. Living the dream. Every day's Christmas.
Every day's Christmas. I love it. All right. So for folks who don't know Richard Ojeda, A, you're about to find out. B, I want to show you some of the ads he ran last time he ran for Congress, and then so you can see why we got excited about him, and then we'll come back talk to him about this new race. Watch this.
I'm Richard Ojeda, and I've been under fire multiple times in places like Iraq and Afghanistan. Tattooed on my back are the names of my brothers that did not come home. Now, my military record and my love of this country has come under fire once again by Carol Miller. How dare she, a millionaire who has enjoyed a life of privilege under the very freedoms that I have fought for. I approve this message because I love this country and I'm willing to fight for it. And you.
That still pumps me up. God, I love those ads. So,
well, believe it or not, we're getting ready to start doing some more. And the same guy who videoed those, we got him back.
Yeah. So back then, Richard, you'd gone to see your move to West Virginia because of your parents, right? And you were there, and you were in the state house at the time, and you ran some killer ads. We got more of that coming up in a second. They hit everybody all across the board. And you know, we put that stuff on our soundboard back then. How dare she? Okay, and I love it. But now you're back home because North Carolina 9 has Fort Bragg. So you're a retired Army major. So tell us about Fort Bragg. Tell us about your story.
Yeah, I spent the majority of my 24 years in the military at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Absolutely loved it there. My daughter was one of the last children born in the old Army Womack Medical Center. My kids were educated there. And when we decided to retire, we said we want to go back to West Virginia, where I grew up, where my wife grew up also, and be closer to our parents. And we did that. And while we were there, I become an educator. I become a state senator and got things done, as you know, in a super minority. But we made the decision later on that we wanted to come back home to North Carolina. You know, we love it here, so we found 20 acres and we decided to build 2 houses because my mother-in-law and sister-in-law live on the property with us. And we love it here. And you know, that's when after a while went past, and then I decided, you know what, this guy who is the representative of this district does not represent me. And to be honest with you, Jake, one of the big reasons is that my daughter, Kayla, was born with scoliosis and hip impingement syndrome. They've had to pull her joints out of the socket to shave them, and her spine is in a metal cage. And if my daughter was to get pregnant, she would probably die. And this administration would let her die before giving her the ability to make a decision about her own body. And that right there, plus many other things, is the reason why I decided to get into this fight.
Yeah, now, this is about an R+10 district, so people say you can't win. Last time.
Yeah. Really?
So last time it was an R+54, and you almost won. Right.
I was actually leading until Donald Trump come to West Virginia twice in 1 month and campaigned against me. And if he wouldn't have put that coal miner's cap on, I'd have beat her.
Yeah. So R+10 should be a breeze for you. Tell us about your strategy for winning in what appears to be a red district.
Well, first off, you know, Richard Hudson doesn't show up. He does not show up. And I'm telling you right now, you know, I look at a campaign like a combat operation. You get off the plane, you go nonstop until it's time to get back on the plane and go home to your family. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm going nonstop. I have been to Alamance County, which is the farthest north part of this district, 10 times in the last 6 weeks. I'm showing up, I'm putting boots on the ground, I'm speaking to everybody, and people are starting to recognize me wherever I go. And that's what right looks like. And once again, Richard Hudson, he's a coward. He calls himself the veterans representative because Fort Bragg's in his district, but he sat silent while Elon Musk tried to gut the VA. So I'm not going to let him call himself the veterans representative, because nobody's going to fight for veterans health care more than I will. Nobody's going to fight for the VA more than me, because I'm in the system.
It's OjedaForNC.com, OjedaForNC.com. Don't forget that. So when we're united, we're unstoppable. I love that slogan too. All right, I'm gonna show one more ad from the past because I want to use that as a transition for what it means to be a populist these days. So let's show another Ojeda ad from the day.
I'm Richard Ojeda, and people say that I'm angry. Well, angry is an understatement. When I come home and I find that I got children in my backyard that have it worse than the kids that I saw in Iraq and Afghanistan, I can't accept that. When I see companies using bankruptcy loopholes to keep from paying our coal miners the pensions that they work for, I will not sit quiet. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been sold out. We've been sold out by people like Nancy Pelosi, Mitch McConnell, and the Washington insiders. I approve this message because I am angry and I'm ready to fight back.
Damn. So I can't accept that was also on our soundboard. So now tell me what it means for you to be a populist and to call out both parties.
Look, at the end of the day, look, I want to go to Washington, D.C., and I want to do things that's going to benefit everybody in this country. You know, the moment that you win an election, you got to stop thinking Republican, Democrat, because the truth is that everybody in your district is your constituent. And let me tell you something, I want to go to Washington, D.C., and I want to do some things that I believe is going to help everybody. But make no mistake about it, if you want to stand in my way when I'm trying to do things like bring back the fairness doctrine, I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican, I will go nose to nose with you. And that's exactly what needs to happen. We need more people to go to Washington, D.C. that are there specifically to fight for the people and not fight for a bigger bank account, not fight for the billionaire class in this country. You know, we literally have 331 million Americans that are going to struggle because we have a Republican Party that are trying to make 820 billionaires more money than they can already spend in 1,000 lifetimes, and they already have that much money. So I want to go to Washington, D.C., and I want to go to Washington, D.C. for the people. That's who I want to go for. That's who I want to work for. That's who I want to get things done for. That's it. I could care less about lobbies. I could care less about the billionaire class. It's time that they, you know, for 50 years, the middle class have carried this country. Now it's time for them to swap and let the billionaires carry us for 50 years.
I like that talk. So listen, you joined the Rebellion. Rebellion PAC had Ro Khanna join first as an incumbent. You're the first candidate to join. And there's a populist plank with the 6 proposals the country loves, right? No more wars, money out of politics, etc. So what I get all the time, and I was just on the Breakfast Club, I talked about you on there, etc. And there was a good question by Lauren, one of the co-hosts, who said, yeah, but you know, we hear this from Democrats, and yeah, those positions are super popular, but how do we know that you're actually gonna do it when you get there? So how do you answer that, Richard?
That's the only thing that I wanna do. You know, look, I personally don't even care for these lifetime politicians, Democrats or Republicans. We need people to go to Washington, D.C. and get some things done. And look, you know what? If I go to Washington, D.C. and I can't accomplish anything, then I'll walk away from it. Because at the end of the day, if I can't get things done, then why am I there? But I really believe that I can get things done. And I think that I can push things like bringing back the fairness doctrine and requiring honesty in our news media. Who's going to vote against that? Because anybody who does, then we see exactly what they're doing. They're voting to make sure that we can continue to allow news media to spew lies to the people. And that's the reason why we're in the situation that we are in, is we've got a significant amount of people in this country that only drink from the fountain of Fox. They're never going to be told that Fox had to pay $787 million for lying. And they sure as hell aren't going to tell the people that the billionaire class are the enemies. And I believe that they are. At the end of the day, I do believe that they are the enemy of the people. And I think that, you know, we need more people that go to Washington, D.C. and fight to help people. I don't want to see school lunches be cut. I don't want to see meals on wheels cut. These are the things that I want to fight for. And I will be honest with you, if we are successful and we take back the House and we hopefully at least can get to a point where we can get things done in the Senate, It's going to take us 2 years to right the wrongs that have been done so far. But I think we can take it to the next level. If we go to Washington, D.C., and we actually fight for the people, we fight to help the people, the working class. We want to elevate the poor out of poverty with a hand up. And we do that, we will be secure. We can stay in Washington, D.C. as long as we're getting things done. The moment that we stop and we literally do nothing but try to go into gridlock, then maybe it's time to sit down. That's one of the reasons why you saw me call out Nancy Pelosi. Because at the end of the day, look, a lot of these people that have been there forever, they're for themselves. They may do things every once in a while that's really, really good, but once again, they're still for themselves. We're watching insider trading. We're seeing corruption that we've never seen like this before. And we've got a man in the Oval Office that we have got to fight, because literally what they're doing, and right now the Republicans are too chicken shit to stand up against him. They're literally going to vote, or they did vote, to allow Donald Trump to send Americans to foreign prisons because they're too cowardly to stand up against Donald Trump. But they're going to come to a point where if they don't, they're going to be the ones that are going to be losing their seats. And that's why I tell people, look, if you got one of these people in your district, run against them. Find some people that can beat these people and then get behind those people. And let's take back the House, let's take back the Senate. In 2 years, we'll take back the executive branch. And then we'll also make some deals when it comes to our Supreme Court, so where we can fix some of that stuff, because Clarence Thomas is an absolute tyrant. And once again, he's just one of those that probably need to be removed, and we can remove them once we get back in power.
So look, first of all, if you want to run, as Richard is saying, and love it, we are taking applications at rebellionpac.com. So check that out. Of course, check out OjedaForNC.com, because you see this fire breather, right? So why have I been on Richard's side all throughout, right? Because how many Democrats are there that says that the billionaire class is the enemy of the people? They never say that. Oh no, but then I can't get their donor money. Yeah, you're right. You can't get their donor money. He doesn't want their donor money. We're trying to get money out of politics, right? Grassroots. That's why I say OjedaForNC.com. All right, so Richard, as usual, you're first here, but you were a sapper, and sappers are meant to be first, right? So
damn straight.
So tell us about your military career a little bit. Is it 16 medals? I don't want to exaggerate. I don't want to get it wrong.
I don't even know. I had a great military career. I was a paratrooper. I was a sapper. I spent the majority of my military career in sapper battalions. Absolutely loved it, and loved the people that I served with. That's one of the things about the military that's so great, is that you learn how to work with people of all race, creeds, and color. And I've really been very proud of our military, that our military has now opened doors for so many people. Women have graduated from Ranger School, from Sapper School. I know women that have master-rated parachutist badges. Women can do anything that a man can do, and anybody out there that wants to serve their country should get the opportunity to serve their country. Trans, doesn't matter to me. You have standards, and as long as you meet those standards, everybody should be allowed to serve their country. And that right now has been under attack. We got Pete Hegseth, who is literally trying to whitewash our military. The fact that one of the first people that he canned was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, a man of color who was a fighter pilot, who was the most qualified person for the job, and he was fired because of the color of his skin. Women, we used to have 4 general officers in the military, 4, they're gone now. What these people are doing is damaging our military, and they're hurting people that really want to be there to serve. The attack on the Veterans Administration, once again, this is our livelihood. I rely on the VA, and I'm going to stay in the VA because it's important to me. But I will tell you that the best thing that I ever did was join the military. It was a decision that I made, and everybody told me, you're not gonna make it. You're too small, you can't do it. Let me tell you something. I absolutely had a phenomenal military career. Now, I didn't retire as a general officer. I was selected for lieutenant colonel, but at that point, I made a decision with my wife that it was time for me to call it quits. so that I could spend a little bit time with my children that were getting ready to get out of high school. And I wanted to spend the last couple years of their high school years with them. And it worked out perfectly because I ended up becoming an educator in West Virginia, and I was in the schools with my kids. And it was just, it was a time that I am so proud that I was able to get, and I'll never, ever throw stones at it.
Yeah, well, look, you're defending not just all the people that you mentioned there, but you're defending the concept of America. We're supposed to stand for equality. We're supposed to stand for justice for all, not for some, for all, right? So now there's also economic issues, right? And we talk about economic populism. So I'm gonna show you one last ad that Richard ran in his last campaign because it's so relevant to one of the Plank's policy positions here. Let's watch this one first.
I'm Richard Ojeda. One huge drug company, McKesson, has dumped over 5 million pain pills onto a small pharmacy right here in Logan County alone. And they've made millions off of pushing their pain pills. They get away with this because they grease the pockets of the members of Congress. But make no mistake about it, I don't want their money. They need not darken my doorstep. And I will have no problems throwing drug company lobbyists out of my office. I approve this message because I'm sick and tired of watching our politicians sell us out.
They need not darken my doorstep. I mean, how much?
And I'm still, that's where I'm at. You know, a lot of people don't realize this, Jake. You know, I ran for president for 2 months. The only reason why I ran for president, it wasn't because I thought I could win. I just wanted to make it to the debate stage because I wanted to make the opioid epidemic a part of the conversation, because they come down to southern West Virginia and eastern Kentucky and they used us as their lab rats.
Yes, right.
And to this day, people are still struggling. And you know what? We need to hold Big Pharma accountable. We should make them build a recovery center in every single community in the United States of America and pay every single dime for the recovery, for the workers that work and the people that help those that are addicted. Big Pharma should be made responsible to cover every single bit of those costs. And that's something that needs to happen. And make no mistake about it, send me to Washington, D.C. I will physically throw a Big Pharma out of my office.
Make sure that there's a TYT camera there when you do that, okay?
We'll do. If they schedule a meeting, I'll give you a call.
Okay, sounds good. So listen, in the populist plank, there's negotiating drug prices at Medicare, right, to lower drug prices. So Richard, here's the thing, like the reason why I love populists like you is a lot of the folks in both parties take tons of money. They take drug company money, or all this other, military contractors, et cetera, right? So you're not taking that corporate PAC money and you're clean and you're running a clean campaign. But also, you get to fight for American principles, one of which is the free market. Like, what kind of insanity says that in a free market, you can't negotiate prices? I mean, that's anti-capitalist, that's anti-free market. So there's absolutely no reason for it other than they literally legally bribe the politicians. So if you're in Congress, will you call out people, no matter which party they're in, if they say, no, we gotta have higher drug prices and we can't negotiate?
Yeah, I'll call them out. You know, let me tell you something. The one thing that really bothers me more than anything is how we could have people in this country that are okay with people dying because they're poor. You know, guess what? You know, you were born with a silver spoon or a golden spoon in your backside, congratulations. But for you to sit here and think that it's okay for somebody that struggles, that they should just die because, they don't have no money. That's unacceptable. That's not American as far as I'm concerned. And look, I don't have a problem calling out anybody. Anybody, if you were a Democrat and you're taking money from Big Pharma, you're the enemy. I don't care if you are taking money from the military-industrial complex, you're supporting the daggone people that won us at war, that benefit when we was at war. We spent 10 years after we killed Osama bin Laden in Afghanistan, building roads in places where the people owned 2 donkeys and a cart. You know, this was all about money in people's pockets, and that's what it was. And you know what? You cannot tell me that we've got members of Congress that didn't know exactly what they were doing. That's the kind of stuff that I will bring to the floor. I have no problems. You want to send people back to combat? Make no mistake about it. I want to do everything in my power to make sure you know what happens to people when you send them to war. and how easy they get broken. And then when they come back, how quick the daggone powers that be in Washington, D.C. want to turn their backs on these people. Once again, 20 years of combat. And we literally had Elon Musk fire over 6,000 people from the Veterans Administration, which 30% are actually veterans, and they're targeting another 80,000. They better never tell me how they support the troops. Don't knock down little old ladies so you get a photograph with a veteran coming off of a plane from a combat zone, because I'm not going to let them get away with that garbage.
So, a lot of pundits on cable news and New York Times, et cetera, said, well, maybe it's time for populism in the Democratic Party. Well, here's populism in the Democratic Party. So let's see if they get behind you. Let's see if they're people of their word, or if they see a real populist go, wait, you're against the billionaire class. Wait, you're against the drug companies. Well, we're gonna find out. Everybody's gonna find out, and Richard's a perfect bellwether for it. Because if you're for populists, this brother's a populist. There's no, you just heard it with your own ears. There's no ands, ifs, or buts here. So I say Ojeda for NC.com. I say when we're united, we're unstoppable, right? So now I want everybody to remember or think about this. Imagine Richard with this attitude that you just saw in Congress, calling people out. Richard, here's what look, you know me, I got an opinion. I don't do normal interviews, right? I got a perspective. So to which I say, can't wait.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I'm going to try to do things that's going to help the people in this country. And I want to tell you, there's a lot of things that we're going to have to fix right now with what we've got going on. But you know what? To me, that's we've got to go back and we've got to fix this country. And I think that we can. We're still the greatest country on earth. That is an absolute fact. But you know what? There's a lot of things that we need to do. We call ourselves number one in everything, and the truth is we're not. There's a lot of things that we should do, but allowing our citizens to die because they're poor or that they can't afford medicine. Look at the cuts that they're trying to make in Washington, D.C. Understand, it's important that everybody knows there are only like 820 billionaires in this country, 820. And right now, the middle class is getting gutted, and they are killing capabilities specifically just to grab the money that was earmarked for those organizations to give to those 820 people. And if anybody thinks that's okay, then you're part of the problem. And it's time for us to make them pay their fair share. It's time for us to completely remove the cap on Social Security, because if we did that, we would have Social Security forever, and we could even enjoy cost of living allowance increases every single year. So nobody has to cut meds in half or starve the last week in the month to make it to the end of the month. There's so many things that we can do. There's so many things that I want to do that I think can really help this country and put us on a better path. I am going to absolutely stand up for teachers and school service personnel. There's plans that I have, and I'm going to go to Washington, D.C. and try to push these things. Look, people think this might sound crazy, but if we require police officers to wear body cameras, then why shouldn't we require lobbyists to wear body cameras? And every daggone time they're talking to a member of Congress, it must be on, or if they get caught talking to a member of Congress in Walmart aisle number 5 without their body camera on, they lose their rights to lobby. Because if we could watch the conversations that our representatives are having with lobbyists, they would be far less likely to sell us down the river, and that's a fact.
Ojeda's back, baby. Okay, Ojeda for NC.com. And look, I want more real Americans in Congress, and I don't think anybody's going to dispute that. Richard Ojeda, real American, and ready to head to Congress. And like I said, sappers lead the way. So here we go.
They're going all the way.
All right, Richard Ojeda, good luck on the run. We appreciate it, brother.
All the way, my brother. Thanks. Out of here.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.